sorry is very gendered. Here she goes.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Awesome. Thanks for inviting me, Lauren.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I have a lot of very excited people here because I know they've put their alarm on, blocked out time in their calendar so they can make it. Because as I've said before, your TEDx talk had a great impact on us. So really happy you're here.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So do you want to kick off by just giving us a bit of background as to who you are, the mission you're on, the work you do, kind of how you got here?
Sure. So I'm a sociologist. I study women's confidence and apologies. And it first started probably about 4 or 5 years ago when I attended an academic conference that completely changed the trajectory of my life and my work and my research. And I was in the audience listening to a panel discussion, basically. And I knew the women on the stage. There was 4 women on the stage. All they had to do was introduce themselves. And it sounds so simple. Just take the microphone and introduce yourself, right? And that didn't happen. And one after the other took the microphone and downplayed their achievements, minimized their experience, in fact, questioned whether they were expert enough to join the panel. And I was horrified. And where there was a man at that panel or at that conference, he never questioned if he was good enough, smart enough, expert enough, the right person, if he had enough knowledge. And I found it infuriating, but I also found it heartbreaking because these were women at the pinnacle of their careers. And so what they were doing with minimizing and questioning themselves mirrored exactly what I was seeing with my undergrad students. And it just like that, I switched my research and I became obsessed with apologies. And why are we apologizing so much? Why do we preface our statements and our questions with sorry? And that's how it all began.
Yeah, it's a brilliant story and one that is very familiar to me. You know, the journey that I've gone on to build Up Front, which is a business focused on, this area of women's confidence and visibility. And I almost describe it to people, it's like once you put those glasses on, you see the world differently and you see the stories and the self kind of diminishing everywhere, and you see how stark the difference can be between genders, which is where the kind of anger comes from, right? And it's like using that anger to hopefully educate and inspire others that actually this stuff is quite easy to unlearn. It can all be unlearned, right?
Yeah, that's the good news. You can absolutely switch out an apologetic mindset and communication style for something more confidence-inducing. It is possible. It takes time, it takes patience, and we can't have perfectionist expectations on ourselves. Oftentimes we do that as women. We say, okay, I'm going to stop apologizing. I'm going to stop deflecting praise. I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to walk 5 miles a day. I'm going to do all of this. And then 3 days into it, you've fallen off the wagon. And then you think, that's it. I'm a loser. I can't do anything. I suck. No. So well, the research around habit formation shows that it does take time. It takes on average 66 days to create a new habit or to break a bad habit. But for some people, it can take anywhere from 18 up to 254 days to create that lasting habit change. So it takes time. Some of us have been speaking this way for years, if not decades. And so you can't just switch a light and start speaking or thinking differently, but you can do it. It just takes time. Yeah.
So I've got a bunch of questions to ask you that folk have sent in advance.
Sure.
So I'm excited to go through those. But my question, so the thing that comes up often for me when I have conversations about this is it feels to me like a defensive, I'm just doing that to be polite. I'm doing it to show empathy. And you asking me not to do it is making me feel like I'm the problem. But actually, it's the patriarchal society we live in, which is the problem, which of course, that bit I do agree with. But I'm curious on how how you respond and what you would say to women who, you know, have probably seen the title of this or might see the title of your book and think, oh, here's another woman bashing women telling us to fix ourselves or do something differently.
So there's a fear and a concern that if we don't say sorry, that we will somehow be perceived as impolite or unkind or uncompassionate. And it's not a either or game. I'm not asking women to never apologize for anything, but I want to bring attention to how often and for what reason they are apologizing. And secondly, how does it make you feel? Apologies matter. Apologies absolutely matter, and they can help you take responsibility and ownership for something. They can ease trauma, heal old wounds, bring down tension for sure. But how often and for what reason is the more important question, because unnecessary apologies for really mundane issues changes how people perceive us. If we are beginning and ending our sentences with, sorry, can I just say something? Sorry, is this a good time? Sorry to bother you. Sorry, I made a mistake. Sorry. No one is looking at us going, yes, how can I get to know her? How can I meet her? She has an abundance of confidence. No, we don't. So the research coming out of my study is showing that we are perceived in vastly different and negative ways. So we use apologies for many different reasons. One is to show that empathy and compassionate side. But there are other words that we can use rather than taking on the weight of somebody else's issue and apologizing for it. And so people often say to me, Maya, it's simply a filler word. It's just a word to show that I care. So I ask women in my study, how do you feel when you have apologized for something that was truly needed? You did something wrong, you took ownership of it, and you apologized. And then compare that to how you feel when you have said, sorry about that, sorry, is this a good time? Sorry, can I squeeze in here? Sorry, I disagree. And there's a difference in how women feel. So when women apologize for something that mattered, that was genuine. So when we're using apologies in a genuine way, intermittently, they feel better, lighter, easier. They feel like they have done the right thing. And then when they compare that to how many times they have apologized in the supermarket for reaching around somebody or for somebody bumping into them or for something silly at the office, the number one response is either I feel silly or I feel deflated. So I don't want to encourage that. Like, we can still be polite human beings. We can still show empathy without 37 sorries in a sentence. And so I ask women, how do you perceive other women who say sorry unnecessarily for really small, mundane things? Because we all know these women. Maybe that's us. Maybe we are the over apologizers. Maybe it's our coworkers, our colleagues, our friends, our bosses, whatever. How do you perceive them? And it's not good. So we are perceived as incompetent, as lacking confidence, doubtful. So again, this type of behavior plants a seed of doubt where there was no doubt to begin with in your audience's mind. So you can use the word sorry, you can use the word apology, or you can use all those minimizing phrases. I'm not an expert. I have a little idea. I'm working on a side project. This is just a thought. Maybe, perhaps, I thought we could sort of try this idea, right? All of those minimizing words are apologies without actually saying the word sorry, because they work in the exact same way. They are planting a seed of doubt in your audience's mind, who now think, maybe she doesn't know what she's doing. Maybe she's not as competent as I thought. Why is she saying sorry so many times? It just starts that chain reaction.